Greetings fellow gorehounds and welcome back to another Blood Splattered vlog. My sincere apologies for the last few weeks. I know I've been uploading very scarcely lately, but trust me, there's reasons for that. For one, I recently completed this script, which is an episode for Blood Splattered Cinema I will be recording over the next few months. So yes, my fellow gorehounds, that means Blood Splattered Cinema will absolutely be coming back, and I hope you look forward to that. Now, unfortunately, the other big thing that happened to me recently is not good news. Basically, a really close friend of mine passed away recently, and I've been dealing with the aftermath of that for the last few weeks. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to be attending his memorial service, and this weekend I'm going to be helping his family move stuff out of his apartment. So for those two reasons, and for reasons I can't quite talk about just yet, I've been really busy. And since starting next month, I'm going to be ramping up production on Blood Splattered Cinema content, which I am super excited to bring back. It's been way too long. That also means in the future, vlogs are going to be coming out a lot slower. And now that I got all that out of the way, let us talk about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Now, this is a movie that's very interesting because I both love it to death and I hate it to death. And it's very weird to be feeling the same strong emotions both ways for the same movie. But I'm going to try to do my very best to explain both feelings as best as I can. First off, in the stuff I really liked about this movie, I really love the way this movie is shot. It's directed by the director of The Orphanage, which is a movie I absolutely adore. And you can really feel, with this movie in particular, the director pulled out all the stops and decided to go full-blown horror. In fact, about halfway through, this movie introduces a new dinosaur, and it films that dinosaur as if it were Nosferatu. So there's a lot of suspenseful stalking sequences with a lot of creepy silhouettes on walls and shit. And to be completely honest, it was the first time since the original Jurassic Park I was actually scared of a dinosaur. And there's this one really great shot of the dinosaur standing on top of this building with the moon behind it, and it's just, it's magnifique. And it looked like something straight out of a Universal monster movie like The Wolfman. And it was just so fucking creepy and gothic, and I loved it. Now, the other thing I really liked about this movie is this movie brings up a lot of ethical questions that haven't really been asked since the original Jurassic Park. It brought up some good questions about animal conservation, it brought up some good questions about the ethics of cloning and what you could do with that technology. And while I don't necessarily like the direction some of those ideas took, I did like that it was asking those questions. In fact, this is the first Jurassic Park movie since the original where I was legitimately conflicted. Which, now that I think about it, probably partially explains why I both love this movie and hate it. And another thing I really like about this movie is I love the way all the action sequences in this movie are constructed. They're fun, they're suspenseful, they're at times ludicrous. But after shit that's happened in the previous movies, I am willing to roll with some ludicrousness. I would even accept if the next movie cast ludicrous. You hear me, producers? Make it happen. And the last thing I really like about this movie is that it really opens up the world of Jurassic Park in a way that means the sequels are gonna have to be different. And I sincerely hope the next movie explores that because it's a lot of promise that it would be a real shame to squander. Anyway, I suppose it's time to talk about the things I didn't like about this movie, and there's quite a lot. The first thing I really didn't like is I felt like a lot of the character development of the main characters, in particular Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, it really felt to me like both of their arcs in this movie was just rehashes of the arcs from Jurassic World. That being said, there is some differences in their journey that I did like. In particular, I felt like this movie fleshed out their arcs a little better than Jurassic World did. But that doesn't change the fact that there's still this recently split couple that become a couple again by the end of the movie. So I guess that's both a good and bad thing, but I'm putting it in bad just because repetition. Now, the main thing I really didn't like about this movie is I found its central theme to be really muddled. This is basically a movie that argues for the preservation of dinosaurs, even though the previous 4 movies argued against that. And I really don't feel like the movie presented a compelling enough argument for me to get on board with the Save the Dinosaurs thing. Especially with all the implications in the epilogue of this movie, but I'll get to that when we get to the spoilers. But yeah, ultimately it just seems to me that the lives of humans is way more important than these things that are gonna eat all of us. Call me crazy, but I just can't get on board with that. But anyway, I can't get more into that until I get to the spoilers, so I think it's about time we got to the spoilers. As per usual, I'm going to include an Amazon affiliate link in the description below, and if you click that link and buy or rent the movie with that link, I will get a kickback from that. And at the end of the day, I do recommend this movie, even though I have my issues with it. The best way to describe it is that it's a true B movie. If you just turn your brain off from the message and actually just enjoy what happens, it's really good. But if you spend 5 seconds trying to think about what the movie's trying to say, it's really messy. And with that, my fellow Gorehounds, let us finally move on to the spoilers. Alrighty then, so the basic premise of this movie is that the island in which Jurassic Park and Jurassic World was set is about to explode in a volcano explosion. And the American government is in conflict as to whether or not it should save the endangered dinosaurs on the island as they would any other endangered species. And one of the big proponents for saving the dinosaurs on the island is Bryce Dallas Howard from the first Jurassic World, which does show a bit of character growth for her, because in the original Jurassic World she just saw them as assets, but here she sees them as living creatures that deserve to be preserved. And one of the people against saving the dinosaurs is Jeff Goldblum from the original Jurassic Park, who throughout this entire series is basically the voice of, we shouldn't have done this. His ideology and Bryce Dallas Howard's ideology are at odds over the course of this movie, even though Jeff Goldblum is not shown again until the very end of the movie. So anyway, Bryce Dallas Howard is contacted by this rich billionaire who lives in the middle of the California woods, and this rich billionaire turns out to be the old partner of the guy who made the original Jurassic Park. But at some point they had some sort of ideological split that caused them to go in separate directions, but you're not sure exactly what that split was about until later in the movie. But whatever their split was over, right now he wants to preserve the dinosaurs and preserve the legacy of his old friend. He then sends Bryce Dallas Howard to go get Chris Pratt, because they really need his help if they're gonna get Blue, the last living raptor, whose side note is my new favorite character in the entirety of the Jurassic franchise. I love Blue and I want way more of Blue. So anyway, long story short, she convinces Chris Pratt to go back to the island, and they save a bunch of the dinosaurs. But then they are double-crossed by the right-hand man of the old billionaire, because it turns out he plans to make a whole bunch of money by selling the dinosaurs to arms dealers. The next movie better be called Jurassic Wars, because I want to see that shit. But that is neither here nor there. The rest of the movie is Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard trying to stop this guy from selling all this shit, but it turns out this guy, who was working with the scientists from Jurassic World and the original Jurassic Park, they created a super raptor called the Indoraptor, and once that thing escapes, everything goes apeshit. And that's when you start getting these awesome horror shots that are like Nosferatu, and they're just fucking beautiful. And over the course of this movie, you find out that the old billionaire has this granddaughter, except the granddaughter is not actually his granddaughter, it's actually a clone of his daughter, and that this is why he and the guy who created the original Jurassic Park split ways. Because he wanted to use the cloning technology to bring his daughter back, and the other guy thought that was playing way too close to God. So they had an ethical split over that, and I really like that aspect of this movie. That being said, it brings up a lot of questions about the continuity of this movie. When did he clone the daughter, and how does the timeline line up? But that's thinking way too hard about this. Though if it makes you feel better, you can put that down as one of the negative aspects of this movie. But I really like that subplot because it brings up the question that I'm surprised didn't come up in the original Jurassic Park, and that's that you could clone people with this. And what would it mean if you actually did clone people with this? What would it mean if you clone people and fuse them with dinosaurs? Which I really hope they do in the next movie because I want to see that. So by the end of this movie, the characters are left with a choice. Do they save the dinosaurs and let them free into California? Or do they let them all die inside this mansion which is crumbling? And initially the characters decide that they are too dangerous to live, but the little clone girl decides that the dinosaurs are just like her and they don't deserve to die. So she ultimately decides to save them. But now you have these two conflicting moral compasses in the movie. Because then Jeff Goldblum comes in with a voiceover saying that this is a really bad idea. So I'm not sure if this movie was on Team Save the Dinosaurs, or if it was on Team Let Them Die. Or if the movie was trying to present a moral quandary that is a little more complicated than that, but just didn't quite succeed in getting it across well. Especially since the end of the movie shows the dinosaurs being unleashed upon California, and you're like, oh my god, so many people are gonna die. Not only was there a raptor there was a T-Rex, and they're just gonna eat the fuck out of people. But I don't want to end this review on a negative, so I'm going to mention one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie. There's a scene in which the island is actually exploding in the volcano explosion, and our heroes have snuck on board the ship of the people who betrayed them, and they're taking off into the sea. And there's this beautiful shot of one of those long-necked dinosaurs whose names escape me. I'll put it right here. And of course I call them long neck because I'm a huge Land Before Time fan, so go figure. But it's standing there and it's crying out to the boat as the island explodes around them, and it's in this silhouette in the smoke, and oh my god, my heart was wrenching. I was crying so hard during this scene. And that scene alone encapsulates what I love about this movie, even though the ending encapsulates what I don't love about this movie. And with that all said, my fellow Gorehounds, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so that you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And as always, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and I'll catch y'all later. Hopefully, on a new Blood Splattered Cinema episode coming to you sometime in the next few months. Fuck yeah.